Hello everyone, this is Hitesh Mhatre, HOD, Computer Engineering Department of Praveen Patil College of Diploma Engineering and Technology. Today we are going to learn about keys, constraints and normalization. So learning objectives, keys, constraint, normalization and its need. Now starting with the keys. Now what is a key? A key is an attribute or a collection of attributes that uniquely identifies an entity among the entity set. So key becomes the column names in a table. So it can be a single column or it can be a group of column. So values in this single column or a group of column that can be uniquely identifying a particular record. So that becomes a key. Now generally there are four types of keys. First is the super key. It is a set of attributes, it can be one or more, that collectively identifies an entity in an entity set. Next is the candidate key. A candidate key is a minimal super key. An entity set may have more than one candidate key. So the attributes that we are using for a super key to identify a entity set, the candidate key becomes the minimum number of attributes that can be used to identify the record uniquely. Then we have a primary key. A primary key is one of the candidate keys chosen by the database designer to uniquely identify the entity set. So from the candidate keys, there is one column or you can say a group of column that can help to identify the record uniquely. Now example of primary key can be like the enrollment number of a student. Now this enrollment number is unique for every student. Similarly, it can be like a employee ID which can be unique for every employee. Next we have is a foreign key. A foreign key is a key attribute of a relation that can be referred in another relation. Means while using a foreign key we need to have two tables. So each table will have a primary key. If a primary key of a certain table is being used into another table, so that primary key into the second table becomes a foreign key. So foreign key is referred to the other relation. Now the constraints. Every relation has some condition that must be hold to be a valid relation. Now these conditions are called as a relational integrity constraints. Means there are certain conditions that a table must follow. Now based on this we have three main constraints. One is a key constraint, second is the domain constraint, third is the referential integrity constraint. So we will see one by one. Starting with the key constraint. There must be at least one minimal subset of attribute in the relation which can identify a tuple uniquely. What it states that it should have a minimum subset of attributes, means it can be either one attribute or a group of attribute that in a relation can identify that tuple uniquely or the record uniquely. So that is most important because you should have at least one key in your relationship. This minimal subset of attribute is called as a key of that relation. If there are more than one such minimal subset, then these are called as a candidate key. So if you have more than one of such subset, this becomes the candidate key. The key constraints force that in a relation with a key value, no two tuples can have a identical value for a key attribute. So this is one of the rule. If the key attribute of the relation is been declared, then you cannot have identical values for two different records in that relation. For example, as I said, the enrollment number of a student. So you cannot have same enrollment for two different students. Then the next condition is that a key attribute cannot have a null values. Key attribute cannot have a null values, which means it cannot be empty. Now important point here is that if you consider a 0, the weightage of is similar to the null, but here 0 is considered as a value and null means empty, means there is no data. So you should be sure regarding the difference between the 0 and the null. Key constraints are also referred to as a entity constraints because this is related to entity and how to identify that entity. So key constraints are referred to as entity constraint. Then we have a domain constraint. Attributes have a specific value in a real world scenario. For example, the age can only be a positive number. Right? So attributes, the values that supported by the attributes are from a specific range, or we can say as a domain. So only that values can be accepted in that particular domain. Like here in example, the age can be only positive, so you cannot have values like -1 or some negative values. So these, while entering, you may declare that it will accept an integer value, but any negative value can be an integer value. So you cannot give that condition. So using domain constraint, you can have this facility. The same constraint have been tried to employ on the attributes of the relation. Every attribute is bound to have a specific range of values. Here's another example, like age cannot be less than 0. Similarly, the telephone numbers cannot contain a digit outside 0 to 9. Means it will have only a digits, it cannot have anything other than the digits. So that becomes a domain constraint. Next we have is the referential integrity constraint. Now referential integrity constraint works on the concept of foreign key. A foreign key is a key attribute of a relation that can be referred in other relation. So the referential integrity constraint states that if a relation refers to a key attribute of a different or maybe a same relation, then that key must exist. Means if you are considering a particular key attribute as a foreign key, then that element should exist in its original form where it is a primary key relation. So the key attribute of a different relation is referred to as a foreign key, then that key element must exist. Then is the normalization. Now if a database design is not perfect, it may contain anomalies, which are like a bad dream for any database administrator. Managing a database with anomalies is like next to impossible. Now when these anomalies occurs, it occurs when there is a update, when there is a delete, or when there is a insert operation. Now the normalization is a method to remove all these anomalies and bring the database to a consistent state. So why do we need this normalization? There are two main primary advantages of having a highly normalized database schema. The first is the increased consistency. Information is stored in one place and thus reducing the possibility of inconsistent data. Now since information we are storing at a one location, so you cannot distribute this data over different location, so which can increase the redundancy, which can increase the inconsistency. It may happen that for a particular record there will be two different values at different location, but since we are storing at a single place, this inconsistency or redundancy has been reduced. Next is easier object to data mapping. Highly normalized database schemas in general are closer conceptually to the object oriented schemas because the object oriented goals of promoting high cohesion and loose coupling between the classes result in similar solution, at least from the data point of view. Means whenever you are creating a relation which requires different entities, now these entities are generally the objects that are in the real world, so it becomes very easy to develop such schemas based on object oriented scheme, so which are highly related to satisfy the object oriented goals, and there is a very less interaction between the different classes. I hope your concept regarding the constraints and the normalization has been clear. For more details, you can contact me at the following information is with you. Thank you.